What is good, everybody? Welcome back to Draft Nerds. This is the new channel over at Dynasty Nerds where we're talking prospects all season long, in the season, out of season, 24/7, 365. Today, we're going to be talking Jordyn Tyson, wide receiver for Arizona State. Now, we're going to break down, what I saw on film, where I think some of the strengths and weaknesses are in his game, kind of how I'm projecting him at the next level, and talk about everything in between. So if this is your first time with the channel, make sure you're subscribed. We're going to be doing this for tons of prospects all summer long. That way you guys can see exactly how we feel about this class. But look, man, Jordyn Tyson, right out the rip, on the film, it is very, very good. There's a lot to like about it. Obviously, a wide receiver coming out of Arizona State, junior this year, 6'2", 200 pounds. From a size standpoint, a stature standpoint, kind of comparable to a guy like CeeDee Lamb. Now, coming out of a high school, he was a 3-star recruit coming out of the state of Texas, ended up committing to Colorado, actually, where Deion Sanders was there in 2022, played that year in 2022 before he transferred in 2023, going to Arizona State, where he would play, the 2024 and the 2025 season there. So kind of a guy who didn't have, all of the 5 stars coming out of high school, kind of had to work his way up the ranks, and he got over to Arizona State. Now, he did not play in 2023, was an injury redshirt that season, due to a knee injury that he suffered there at Colorado in 2022. But 2025 is really the year I want to focus on from a statistical standpoint. Obviously, that's the year that he's going to be declaring, the year that just finished. So he finished this year with 61 receptions for 711 receiving yards and 8 touchdowns, but that was in 9 games. So not a full season played here for Jordyn Tyson. As far as collegiate awards go, he's a Big 12 Offensive Newcomer of the Year in 2024, a 2-time first-team All-Big 12 in 2024, and this year in 2025. But before we get into the film breakdown, I want to let you guys know what I watched, because you guys can go watch these games in the film room yourself. If you're not a Nerd Herd member, go join it. That is where we are watching film. You guys are going to be able to do it too. I watched 5 games on Tyson: Kansas State in 2024, Arizona in 24, Baylor, TCU, and Texas Tech in 2025. So those are the games that I watched. You can go watch those for yourselves and see if what I'm seeing on tape you are also seeing. Maybe you see something different than what I did. But let's talk about the strengths first for Jordyn Tyson. This is a player who is a very, very high-level route runner. I think he plays with a lot of suddenness, a lot of nuance in his game. He's crisp. He's savvy. He's detailed when he's running these routes, and he's doing it all over the field. He is very quick and explosive in and out of those breaks with some sharp change of direction in his game. It just feels very reminiscent of, and I don't want to give too high a praise to Jordyn Tyson immediately, but it feels very reminiscent of how Justin Jefferson runs route, very reminiscent of how a guy like Garrett Wilson runs routes. And he uses that hesitation, that tempo in his game. If you didn't know, you probably know. A lot of people have already talked about it. His brother plays for the Cleveland Cavaliers. I think Tyson played some basketball as well, Jordyn Tyson, that is, because he has that basketball hesitation, that crossover in his route running as well. It creates a lot of separation, and I really like what we see from that standpoint. So because of that, I think this is a guy who's an elite separator, who is constantly open. And there was times where I'm watching this film and I'm like, throw the damn ball, Sam Levitt. You got a guy in Jordyn Tyson wide open all over the field, but he was not getting the football. It feels like the numbers that we got from Tyson could have been monstrous if Sam Levitt had a little bit more confidence, really wanted to, zip that football into a couple of these tighter windows, because Tyson was open a lot of the time and he just wasn't getting the football sometimes because of the quarterback play there at Arizona State. But he's a guy who creates space all 3 levels of the field. He wins early and late in his routes. He's very rarely blanketed by coverage, and I think he finds the soft spots in zone coverage a lot, really knows how to sit down in those soft spots and be a target for his wide receiver, even when the play is breaking down a little bit. He has very strong hands. He has advanced catch technique. He's a player that I think is a natural hands catcher, plucks the ball away from the defense, doesn't necessarily use his body that much as a catcher. He's really going up and getting it using those strong, soft hands. I think he uses late hands too to keep defenders guessing. So sometimes you'll see him running the route before the football is really even in his hands. He still has his hands down, puts them up late. Then the defense doesn't even know the football's coming his way. They can't really bat anything down because of that. So very savvy. That's like a high IQ football type of play. That's a veteran type of play from a wide receiver. And you'd love to see that as a guy going to the next level. He's also a guy that I think is really reliable through the contact point. I think he's competitive at the catch point. He's not necessarily this big bruising type of wide receiver, but he plays big at the contested catch point, and he's very reliable when he comes down with some of those passes. So just a player that I really do like, despite him having fairly normal frame size, not necessarily being a big wide receiver This is a guy who runs a full route tree. He's very versatile. They use him all over the football field. He was lining up in the slot, outside, in motion, all over. Runs a full route tree, and I think he's going to be very comfortable at the next level playing in multiple roles, no matter where they decide they want to play him. They could play him outside. They could play him in the slot. They could play him as a Z. It doesn't matter. I think Jordyn Tyson can do it all. This is also a wide receiver who has a lot of feel for the position. He's very quarterback friendly, and he has a lot of nice instincts when he's running these routes. I think he works back to the quarterback a lot at times, especially when that play's breaking down, which proved to be very friendly for a guy like Sam Levitt, who I felt like at times was holding the ball a little bit too long, but Jordyn Tyson made it easier on him, still getting him to pick up some of those chunk plays. He improvises really well on these routes too, especially when structure breaks down. He's able to get open and find spots where his quarterback can make that throw for him fairly easily. I think he also showed really good spatial awareness with the other wide receivers on the field and some of the coverage, just recognizing, like I said, some of those soft spots of the defense, some of the zones where these other routes were being ran on the football field, and playing alongside those as a complement to them, not necessarily conflicting with them. This is also a player who has a lot of yak ability, and I think it's underrated, maybe an underrated part of his game because of the movement skills that he has. I think that helps the yak ability for him. He's elusive after the catch. I think he makes defenders miss very often when he's in open space. He's not necessarily the easiest guy to bring down, and that's not because of size and stature. That's because of the elusiveness that he plays with. There's a lot of fluidity and a lot of balance in his game. The body control is really good for him overall. And he's a player who I think has really functional speed for the next level as well. Very good long speed type of guy. I think he's capable of being a threat to defenses vertically, especially as he gets over the top, kind of stacks these DBs and becomes a deep threat downfield. But he's not just quick. I think he's a player that's also capable of stacking defenders, like I said, given the space that he's getting. Now, while there's certainly a lot to love on the football field and on the film for Jordyn Tyson, there are a few things on the football field that, if I'm being picky, I think you could look at as weaknesses. One of those is that he struggles a little bit against some of these physical, these handsy DBs. I think he can get disrupted just a little bit at the line of scrimmage if defenders can get their hands on him. Now, he does a great job, I think, at times of doing the hand fighting, trying to keep the hands off of him, but he can get bumped off of those routes just a tiny bit if they do get their hands on him. They get a little bit physical with him. And I do think at times he can do a little bit of a better job when he's not the primary read at selling those routes. I think he can drift and kind of tip routes when he's not the main option. And I do think that effort and deception probably dip a little bit slightly, especially on those backside routes where he's not going to be the guy in the offense. And I think DBs kind of pick up on that as the game goes on. Really, the biggest weakness and I think the biggest concern for a guy like Jordyn Tyson is not anything on the football field. The biggest issue with Jordyn Tyson is he has some durability and some injury concerns. Now, as I said, he had an injury redshirt in 2023 when he transferred to Arizona State, and that's because he had that serious knee injury in 2022 at Colorado. He tore the ACL, the MCL, and the PCL in that knee, which obviously forced him to miss the remainder of the next season while he took that redshirt and tried to heal from that one. He got back in 2024, missed some time because of a broken collarbone, and then in 2025, missed some time again this year. Like I said, he only played in 9 games. That's because he had a hamstring strain this year as well. So if you're looking at Jordyn Tyson, some of the stuff to be worried about is not necessarily on the film as a receiver. As a receiver, he's a very, very good wide receiver prospect. It's the durability and the injuries concerns that I think are going to push people off of him a little bit. Now, the one being the knee injury, that main serious knee injury, that's the one that worries me the most. The broken collarbone, I'm not too worried about broken bones at the next level. Don't really translate to anything, I think, at the next level either. Hamstring strain, not that serious, but that knee injury is the one that kind of is a little bit worrisome. At the end of the day, I do think these durability and these injury concerns are a little bit overblown because while he suffered some injuries, the main one being 2022, by the time he gets into the NFL, that'll be 4 years old almost. I think everybody at the NFL level is prone to injury. We'll see what happens with Jordyn Tyson, but I am not going to be fading the talent on the football field because of some of the durability concerns. We'll see what happens with him at the next level. But when we look at that next level for me, if I had to project him, he's going to be a true number 1 for an NFL team. They're going to draft him to be the number 1 wide receiver for them. He's going to line up all over the football field. I think he's an alpha type of guy at the next level. And like I said, there's some flashes, some similarities in his game that I see to guys like Justin Jefferson, who was coming out of LSU as a prospect. Not the Justin Jefferson we have today. He got better at the next level. But coming out as a prospect, I see some LSU Justin Jefferson. I see some Ohio State Garrett Wilson. Savvy, smart, nuanced type of route runners that I think can win at all levels and are a little bit underrated as physical threats too. So that's kind of how I see Jordyn Tyson. I expect him to be a first-round pick in the NFL. If teams are worried about the knee, maybe he gets a better landing spot. But some ideal landing spots, I think, would be Miami at 11, The Rams at 13 maybe is the next wide receiver 2 alongside Puka after Devontae Adams is done. But if that knee kind of gets some people nervous, I think there's some really good landing spots potentially for Buffalo at 26, San Francisco at 27 to be Drake May's #1 wide receiver there at 30. We'll see what happens with these guys. But yeah, right now, man, there's lots of good landing spots. I really like Jordyn Tyson. I think he's a really good player on film. You do have the durability concerns, but a great player overall. I think, I don't want to make anything solidified until we get into the Carnell Tate or the Mekhi Lemon film that we're going to get in over the next couple of weeks. But right now, you have to look at Jordyn Tyson and say he truly does have a shot to be the #1 wide receiver in this class. I'm interested to see how the tape looks for the other two guys. But if this is your first time on the channel, like I said, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're tapped in. We're going to be doing lots more prospect breakdowns. That's what I saw. You guys go get in that film room. Tell me what you saw. I'll see you on the next one. Till then, peace out.